Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hey everybody, it's Paul Carruthers, and this is our weekly MotoAmerica podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. As I just mentioned, I'm Carruthers, and I've got Bice out in Ohio waiting eagerly to start flapping his lips and keeping us on here way longer than we should be. So we'll bring him in now, get him primed up, and he can start in early, and then maybe we can get this thing done on time. So how are you, Sean?
I'm really good. You know, I think I've said this before, but my mom and dad always said I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle, but it's kind of weird. Phonographs are sort of old school now. So I think the kids, including our guests, probably don't even know what we're talking about with that whole thing, but I'm good to go. I'm excited to get this thing on.
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't know what a phonograph is. There's no way. I barely know anymore, but I do remember the issues that they presented. So.
Oh yeah,
those records skipping around a little bit and dust on the needle, and you had to have everything pretty precise. And
it was ridiculous. I had one of those disc washers, which was like some kind of weird thing that you had to run along in line with the grooves on the record and make sure every bit of dust is off it, and it still crackled like hell after you got done. But all I could do, I cranked up the debut Van Halen album without even worrying about it. So it was all good.
It's funny now because, you know, kind of the younger people, kids today thought that phonographs would be cool. So they started actually buying them and listening to them on record players. And I'm just like, oh man, you guys, you don't even know.
Yeah, it's funny how you see that now. I've been in a couple of those stores where they've got vintage vinyl, and some of the artists are even putting stuff out on that. So I guess phonographs do sort of exist, but you know, everything's cyclical, right? It's like, you know, what we thought was the latest, greatest technology is kind of quaint and fun for, you know, this generation, I guess. But
yeah, I guess so. People like to go back in time a little bit with some of that stuff. But
right.
Let's introduce our guest today, Benjamin Smith. Some call him Ben. I like Benjamin. It sounds more sophisticated, and he's kind of a sophisticated kid, so I think he should be called Benjamin. But
well, I appreciate that, Paul. I don't get called sophisticated a lot, so
that's it. See, I think of that right away. Probably others don't. But
I'll take it.
But Benjamin is a former KTM RC Cup champion in the MotoAmerica series, and now he races Supersport. He's done so for a few years. He's currently 5th in points in our championship, but that could easily end up as high as 3rd. I think there's only 15 points between him and Sam Lockoff, who's in 3rd place. And there's a couple other guys with a chance to move up and down too. So it's going to be an exciting last couple of races here to end our MotoAmerica season, which seems like it's gone entirely too fast. Benjamin, he only has 2 podiums, but he's been extremely consistent. If you look at the point standings, he's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 4th, 5th, 5th, 4th, and he just kind of bounces around in that area. Benjamin, welcome to Off Track with me and Sean, and we're happy to have you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me on here. Love what you're doing here with the podcast, so I'm really happy to be on it.
Now, the consistency that I talk about, you're probably pretty proud of, but I think you'd probably like the consistency to be 1 or 2 spots higher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, like you said, it has been a great year as far as consistency goes. I think that there's definitely been some missed opportunities for me to make that consistency, like you said, a couple spots higher. I think that I've had some podium shots that I haven't really closed in on. But you know, it is what it is. It's part of us developing, me developing as a rider and us developing our program. You know, we're just taking it all in and trying to, like you said, just get consistent results. We've got the speed. You know, we've shown that a couple times this year. It's just getting down to it now, finding that last little bit to hopefully stay on the podium, you know, race week, you know, every race weekend. So
now, real quick, from observing the races, you seem to be strong in the beginning, and then I hate to use the fade word, but then you sort of fade a little bit towards the end. Now, is that is that a matter of you slowing down for tires or whatever issues you may have? Or is that a point where they step it up a notch that you're not comfortable with?
It's definitely, it's definitely something that I've been working on this year because obviously, I realize that as a rider. Like I said, I think that I have the speed to hang with Sean and Richie. Honestly, right out of the gate, I'm able to hang with them for, half the race or so. But then I've had an issue with significant fall offs. And it's a combination of a couple of things, honestly. Between myself, the bike, us trying to make the bike work at that pace for the beginning and then have enough tire left to go with those guys at the end because, realistically, they don't drop off at all. If anything, they get faster throughout the race. And that's kind of something that I ran into at Pittsburgh where went with Sean and Richie in race 2 for their first, 7 or 8 laps. And then they dropped, a couple tenths of a second. But when you're going that fast, a couple tenths of a second seems like a lot. And like I said, it's kind of a combination of a couple of things. I'm definitely working on stuff as myself, just my riding style, trying to figure out how I can make myself be better in the longevity category. But it really is just us figuring out how to keep that pace throughout race distance. And it's certainly not easy for sure.
Benjamin, I don't think I've ever told you this before. I know I haven't, but it's high time I let you know that in a lot of ways you remind me of Garrett Gerloff. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that. Has anybody ever said that to you?
No, actually, but I'll take that as a compliment. So
well,
I
remember when Garrett was younger in his career, and man, he would get so frustrated by the fact that he was right there knocking on the door all the time. And he used to not really struggle, but he used to get so upset with, he couldn't figure out how to get to that next step, or, even sometimes with JD. I mean, he overcame that obviously, but he would finish second a lot. And he couldn't quite break through and get those wins. And, then once he did, in Supersport, and then obviously what he did in Superbike, and it kind of went on from there. But it's a lot of ways, not only in your riding style and kind of what you're being kind of right on the verge there, but just the fact that you're a well-spoken young man and do well with the media and everything. So you've got a lot going for you. And I think this year it's been tricky because of obviously Richie and Sean. Do you feel like, just as an example, sometimes I talk to the Hono Superbike riders, and a few of them just act like, Jake's on a completely different plane, and they felt the same way about Bobier last year. And it's not like they're defeatist about it and they think, oh, they can't beat him, but it's like they kind of have a little bit of an issue there with, if not for them, I'd be fine. So how do you approach it in terms of Supersport when you've got those two guys ahead of you? And of late a little bit, Rocco's come on too, quite a bit. So do you feel like you can race with those guys, or are you, and I don't want to say you're biding your time, but it's probably a factor of they're probably going to go out of this class and into something else soon. And will you stick around, and do you think that'll be your time, or do you not look at it that way? How do you approach that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think to start off with, I truly do believe that I can run with those guys. And, we have shown that, I do have the outright pace to go with those guys. It is just like we just talked about, a matter of me figuring out how to make it last. But I look at it as a matter of, I think that it's making me a better rider. I mean, those two guys that I'm racing against are obviously phenomenal on the motorcycle. They've got a lot of talent. So I think that it's definitely made me up my game, and I'm all for that. Anytime that I have a challenge, an objective to shoot towards, I think that it's making me better overall on the bike. So I look at it as a positive. And yeah, I've heard the same things about those guys moving on, to whatever respective things they're going to do in the future. We haven't had a set plan for what exactly is going to happen next year. We've got definitely an idea, but I guess I do see it as an opportunity. But like I said, I think that, other people will step up at the same time, and there's always going to be competition. I think that, going forward in my career, hopefully this year is going to be huge for me, because it's, I've been pushing myself all year to, even if I can't hang with those guys for the whole race like I would like to, hanging with them for half the race. I think I've learned more in those half 7-8 laps than I do, rolling around in 5th place. So I think that, for me as a rider, it's been a huge learning experience, and I really do think that we're making steps towards being able to go with those guys for the whole race and compete for a win. I'm just hoping that we can kind of put that together with 2 rounds to go. So we'll see what happens.
You mentioned learning in there somewhere. I know you finished high school. I think you've dabbled a bit in college. Is that, not talking about motorcycles for a minute, is that something you're still pursuing, or what goes on with Benjamin, when he's not at the racetrack?
Yeah, I mean, off track Benjamin is like a normal kid, honestly, and I think that it's it's hard to come by. I think in this paddock, like I like you mentioned, I went through my whole educational career has been public, middle school, high school. I'm still in college at Penn State. I'm doing it virtually right now, I'm actually living in Charleston, South Carolina at the moment, but I'm still fully committed to college because it's just always been that way for me, honestly. Like, motorcycle racing is fantastic. I mean, it is my life, and that's, if lightning strikes and I'm able to make a career out of it, fantastic. That's what the goal. That's why I'm doing it. But at the same time, I've always had the mindset of, I've got to have an education, I've got to get a college degree of some sort, just so, if I do need to step out into the real world, I'll be prepared for it. And it's just kind of the way that I like to go about life. Like like I said, I'm basically a normal kid that's growing up. I'm in college. I'm living in a college town. Like, I obviously take motorcycle racing extremely seriously. But at the same time, I hope people can look at me as like a normal kid. I'm not somebody that's, only ever focused on motorcycles. Like I try and have fun with other aspects of my life as well. So.
Benjamin, let's stick with this theme for a minute, just because you opened up something for me. I need to find out. I know you're from Pennsylvania. Why are you in South Carolina and going to school at Penn State from there? What's going on? What's going on with South Carolina?
So it was actually it actually started last year. So I was going to Penn State, on campus last year, a branch campus of Penn State. And then that was 2 years ago now. Wow. And then COVID hit. So COVID hit, and then everybody was forced to go to online. At the same time, our race season was kind of going late because of COVID, obviously. Our last race was in like October. So last school year, I continued with the online learning because of racing. Like, it just simply was not going to work for me to go back. I would have just missed too much time. And then transfer over to South Carolina. I've got friends down here in Charleston, longtime friends from home, Pennsylvania, that now go to school here at College of Charleston. And it's always something that I've thought about. Like, I love the area. So last January, I decided to move in with one of my friends that goes to school here. Moved in, was still doing class virtually through Penn State. I absolutely fell in love with the area, everything about it, the weather, the atmosphere, everything about it. So I decided to continue doing that this year, living with a couple more kids here down in Charleston, South Carolina, they're going to school here. I'm doing Penn State online, which honestly has helped a lot with my racing because I'm still getting the same education, but it has opened up a lot more free time for me, basically, between training and just getting to the races. It's made it a lot easier. And yeah, I mean, I love it down here. I've got my dirt bike down here now. I've been doing a lot of dirt bike riding with some buddies. So yeah, it's kind of just been a life change that I've made, and I'm really happy with how it's been going so far.
Well, I'll tell you, Benjamin, that's interesting because my wife has badly for the past few years now wanted to move to Charleston, South Carolina. She talks about it all the time. And I'm like, it's too humid there. It's too, we've been down there a couple times to visit it. And I mean, it definitely feels different, as you can tell. Ohio and Pennsylvania are pretty similar, but South Carolina is a whole different world. But that's cool that you like it so much. That's great.
Yeah, no, the humidity, you're exactly right. It's pretty brutal down here right now, but I try and stay away from this area in the months of like June, July, and August, but but yeah, it is a completely different atmosphere, but I've fully embraced it and I'm really enjoying it. So.
And one thing I want to talk about, a little bit off this topic of racing again, just because I think you took a little bit of guff from when you guys went to do batting practice with the Otterbots, and you played baseball in high school. You are a good baseball player. And of course, they use the clip of you losing the bat out of your hands. So I want you to be able to redeem yourself and talk about it. Can you tell us about, you played in high school, right? What position? And tell us a little bit about that so you can redeem yourself.
Oh yeah, so I guess I definitely need some redemption on this. So so that was not my best showing at our the event that we did there with the Otterbots. It was really cool. I'm really happy that we got to do it. That was not my best showing. I played baseball in high school. I played center field. I played Little League. Obviously, I think every kid played Little League, but yeah, I played a lot of baseball as a kid. Before we did that event, I hadn't picked up a baseball bat or glove in like 2 years, so that probably didn't help. But yeah, no, I was a baseball player in high school. I played baseball, soccer. Just played sports basically my whole childhood. And then motorcycle racing, obviously when you start to get more serious with it, it takes up a lot of your time. So it kind of took over my other sports that I was playing, and I kind of just faded away from them. But I still love the sport. Like I love baseball. I love soccer. I play a lot of golf down here. I'm a huge fan of, stick and ball sports, anything like that. I do love more than just motorcycle racing. So
yeah, and I mean,
Renaissance man.
What's that, Paul?
He's a Renaissance man.
Yeah, he is. He can handle a lot of stuff. But let's go back into the racing a minute, because I want to talk about, obviously we've got New Jersey Motorsports coming back up on the schedule here. It's our next round next weekend, and that is your home track. You kind of learned to race there, isn't that correct, Benjamin?
Yeah, yep, that's definitely my home track. It's only about an hour and 45 minutes away from where I live. Grew up racing on the kart track there with NJ Mini GP. Did my first, what you could say big bike track day there. So yeah, I've definitely got a lot of experience around that place. I actually haven't, believe it or not, I haven't ridden there since I haven't done a track day there or anything all year, which is actually surprising. It's just been so busy with MotoAmerica, but yeah, regardless, that's definitely my home round. So I'm looking forward to it. I think that it should be definitely a good weekend.
Now, Ben, sticking with the motorcycle thing here, so you've moved, where's Dad these days? I know he's still a big part of your program because I see him doing all the grunt work of running tires around while you're like laying around in a hammock, but where's Dad located, and you guys just meet at the races, or how does that work now?
So he's still back in Pennsylvania, living at home. I go back there and I live there during the summer. I actually just moved down here week and a half ago. But yeah, as far as getting to the races, Jersey will be the first weekend that I have to fly to. So I'll end up taking a one-way back up to Philadelphia. We're lucky that it's Jersey, so I can just fly into Philadelphia probably on Wednesday, and then I'll drive to the racetrack with my dad on Thursday for setup day. And then again, it kind of works out that Barber's the next weekend because I'll just stay home after Jersey and drive down with the team to Barber. And then, yeah, I haven't exactly figured out how I'm getting back to Charleston after Barber, but it shouldn't be too difficult these last two rounds because it's basically just going to be one flight up and then one flight back. So,
Benjamin, let's talk about the program that you've got going now in your team, because I'll tell you, I got to know you with Norris Racing with Kelly and Angie, and I love that team with Caroline Olson involved in it, and Michael Gilbert was part of it, and I got to know you guys, and it was a great group of people. But I really, really love your team now a lot, Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing, and kind of what they are bringing to the paddock and what they offer. Not only on your team, but I hear all these stories about how they kind of save the day for teams that need, parts, whether it's engines, this, that, or the other thing. And it's obviously advanced your program pretty far forward. And those guys are as rabid as you are to get up front, and you can tell they've got the fire in their eyes just like you. So tell us about the program and what Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing is all about.
Yeah, I honestly owe it all to those guys. Kyle Alexander at Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing has been behind me for actually longer than most people have seen. He's put together this program from the ground up, basically, and it's obviously stepped up my career. This year especially, it's been cool. We were able to bring on my teammate right now, CJ LaRoche. So he's joined the team on another Yamaha R6. We also brought on Ken Hill. He's CJ's rider coach, and he's actually been helping me this year as well. And CJ's been making phenomenal progress, honestly, behind the scenes. He's been putting in a lot of work, and I think that especially next year, he's going to make a huge step forward. But yeah, the team's phenomenal. Kyle's he is the owner of Northeast Cycle Outlet. His shop is based out of Montoursville, Pennsylvania. He takes salvage bikes in, parts them out all across the world, honestly. And he's grown a bigger market than I think he expected in the MotoAmerica paddock. Like you said, there's been plenty of weekends where people, mid-weekend have a crash and they need a part. And Kyle is able to have his guys overnight a frame or a motor or something to the racetrack and help a competitor out. And so that's kind of what it's all about. He's in it. He loves racing himself. Kyle does. The whole team does. I mean, Jonathan, my data guy, who's actually related to me, my dad, obviously, it's kind of a family effort. So yeah, and I guess I should explain that Kyle is, I'm somewhat related to Kyle as well. So it really is like a family effort that we got going on here, which is pretty cool. It makes for, we've got a phenomenal atmosphere. We always are able to bounce stuff off each other, and yeah, it's worked out really well. So I couldn't ask for a better program to be a part of.
So project yourself forward a little bit, and there's some news that will, by the time this podcast runs, will have been out. And I don't think you know this yet, but on the entry list at New Jersey, Corey Ventura is going to be racing, but he will not be racing in Supersport. And he's kind of become a little bit of a Laguna Seca specialist, and he got on the podium once last year and twice this past in this season there. But he's going to be racing in Twins Cup for Veloce Racing alongside Anthony Mazziato, a good friend of yours, Benjamin's, from your area. And he's going to be on a twin. And I talked to Corey a little bit about it. And, he's sort of saying, I want to see what it's like. I mean, it seems like the class has evolved a lot. It seems like that's the direction that possibly super sport size or sport bikes are going in. And he's going to give it a try and see how it goes. I know for now, Supersport is strong, but we know a little bit the way the bike manufacturers have been about 600 class bikes. You don't know what's going to happen. So tell me about what you think about Twins Cup, and also what's your plan down the road? I mean, are you going to move up to stock 1000, or are you going to stay in Supersport for a while? Have you considered Twins Cup at all? And I know that's a lot of questions for you, but I'm just thinking kind of about your future, Benjamin. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's yeah, so that's something that I didn't know. I think that I had heard Corey was maybe considering it. Overall, I think that exactly the same way. I think that Twins Cup has definitely stepped it up. Honestly, when the class first came into MotoAmerica, I was kind of unsure about it personally, but I think that it's made huge steps forward. It's great that it's getting manufacturers back involved in the sport, like Aprilia. Yamaha's obviously came out with the new R7, so they're pretty excited about that. So I think that the class definitely has a lot of potential to it, and who knows? Personally, that I'm in the middleweight Supersport class right now. I think that it's sad to see that a class that's been established for so long is kind of taking a downturn. But times change. You can't control everything. So if this is what the manufacturers think is best for them, then I'm all for it. Yeah, I honestly, I've never really considered jumping into Twins class. I don't know if I could ever see myself particularly doing that. As far as the 1000 goes, absolutely. I mean, that's the next step. I don't know. That's something that we're kind of on the fence about right now. Like I said earlier, as far as next year goes, about when the right time to step up to 1000 is, or if it should be stock 1000 or Superbike. That's all something that I'd like to talk around to some people in the paddock and get some more opinions on, because you can't stay in Supersport forever. And I don't want to be one of those guys where, I'm in the class for so long that it's just, you become irrelevant after a long period of time. Even if you do, there's definitely a time I'm still young. I mean, I just kind of turned 21 years old. Like, I'm still pretty young. So I think that I still have some time, but there's definitely, it's getting down to it to where I got to make a decision on whether I want to try and stay in Supersport, win a championship, or start my 1000 career if it's possible. But I think that all the classes have kind of stepped up as well. I think that Stock 1000's kind of taken a similar path as Twins Cup has. Same thing. I wasn't so sure about the class when it first came in, and now it's a legitimate class with some really fast riders in it. And it seems like if you do well enough, there's possible opportunities to step up to Superbike. So it's all a game that we're playing, and just to everybody is just to try and find their best path for their career. So hopefully I choose the right one, but as of right now, I haven't had anything set in stone for it.
Sean, I think we could have like an RC Cup reunion.
Yeah, it's true. It's so cool, these guys out. Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of that, Benjamin, when you look back at those, RC Cup years, those have to be pretty good memories for you, being a kid in the paddock with other kids and getting to race motorcycles.
Oh yeah, those were. I mean, I think that we all say, like you said, we could have an RC Cup reunion. It's great to see some kids like Anthony and Jody, and those kids are starting to come back into the paddock. But we all talk about it, how those days were honestly some of the most fun days we've had at the racetrack. I mean, even if you had a bad day on the actual track, you would go out and we would just ride around on scooters, until it got dark and we had to leave the track. I mean, those years were great. 2016 and 2017 for myself. Just kind of the camaraderie that every rider had with each other. It was definitely a serious atmosphere. Every kid did their best. We all took it serious, but at the same time, once you got off the track and you did what you needed to do, it was like, you were having fun with your friends. You were a kid that was living the dream. I mean, had just started high school at the time, and for me to be able to travel the country and race motorcycles at that young of an age, like, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, I mean, and so I think that same with every other kid in there. It was great. And the whole spec class thing, I was a huge fan of. So yeah, those were definitely some of the highlights of my racing career for sure. And hopefully I've got more coming, but it's, those were definitely some good days.
I want to go back and talk a little bit more about Supersport because, I was kind of projecting forward and thinking about what the OEMs have been doing, but I certainly don't mean to signal a death knell for that class. I mean, it's highly competitive, as you know, Benjamin. You guys produce some of the best racing we have on every race weekend. I mean, to see you guys doing the battles, obviously Richie and Sean up front, but even your next grouping of guys trying to get up with those guys. There's a lot going on there. It's fun to watch. I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess, where the manufacturers, are kind of shifting a little bit, but at the same time, it certainly doesn't lack for popularity and being an exciting class. So regardless of whether you move up next year, it sounds like you're in pretty good stead with regard to Northeast Cycle Racing. I mean, you said it's a family, so do you project that that's going to be something that's going to continue for the foreseeable future, you and that team?
I think so. Yeah, I would definitely say so. As I mentioned before, we definitely have a really good atmosphere going. And, we've brought on, like I said earlier, we brought on CJ LaRoche, and he's super happy with the progress that he's made this year. I mean, he's made huge steps, and he's really looking forward to next year, making a couple more steps and getting closer to that podium. So I think that we've got a good program going for us. It's just kind of, we're a little bit on the fence on which direction we want to go with it, but I definitely, I don't see myself really changing direction as far as a team goes that much in them. I love what we got going on right now. And I think that it's exactly what I need. Like, if I want to be in this paddock and be competitive, I need to be on a team like this where they take it seriously. Obviously we all take it very seriously, but at the same time, if you're not having fun while you're there, then why are you doing it? So we kind of look at it in both ways. But yeah, to sum it up, I do see myself sticking with these guys, and, hopefully we can have a killer season next year, no matter what we choose.
Yeah. And you've mentioned CJ. I want to recognize him for a minute. I credit you for actually helping me get to know him a little. I've spoken to him in the past few rounds, and, he's quite a fascinating guy with his tree management business. And there's a lot more to it than just sawing down trees or whatever. He's involved in, looking at tree management from up in the air and all kinds of things. And he's got a small 2-seater plane that we were trying to work out for having a flyover at the track at Pittsburgh, because he lives in Bel Air, Ohio, that isn't too far from the Pennsylvania border. So Pittsburgh is for sure his home track. And, we couldn't quite make it work out because his Benjamin, you alluded to this time of year, you know, it gets humid and then it starts to rain. So when we were at Pittsburgh, we were kind of dodging that whole thing. He didn't have a lot of good area to be up in the plane, but he's a really awesome guy though. And he's got a lot, like you, there's a lot about him that's well beyond racing. How did you guys get together and become teammates? How did that happen?
So he's like you said, he's from Ohio. I've always seen him around at the track, you know, years before this, always seen him at track days, you know, MotoAmerica races, even when he would wild card. And I think that just kind of at the end of last year, we knew that he was looking to trying to put a whole season together in MotoAmerica. And before he had been doing it all by himself, you know, and that's tough. And I think that he was looking for something where he can, you know, take it to the next step where he basically just has to focus on riding. And that's what he wanted. So, you know, Kyle reached out to him, they talked, and, you know, CJ's a fantastic guy. Like you said, there's a lot more to him than people know. So he was all for it. He wanted to be a part of it. So he got his program together, we got ours together, and we combined the two. And yeah, he's, I think that this whole atmosphere of him being able to, like I said, just show up to the racetrack and focus on his own personal riding. It's his lap times at all the tracks and his results. I mean, he honestly has made huge steps, and he's really enjoying it, which I'm really happy about. So yeah, it kind of just all worked out perfectly. It was good timing. We were able to make it happen with him, and I think that we do have a good future ahead in that relationship. So.
Has it helped you the same way? I mean, we often talk to riders and we talk about, you know, some riders who don't have a teammate. I mean, like Matthew Skoltz is a good example. You know, I always wonder if he would benefit from having another superbike rider on that team. That, you know, obviously it's helped CJ. We've seen that with his lap times and things, but has it helped you as well?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, so we actually were just out at Pittsburgh on Monday. Me and CJ, we went out there. I grabbed the rig from Kyle and we went out and we just rode for a day. There was a private track day that we rode at, and he was actually able to help me with some stuff that I've been working on as far as, you know, kind of going back to the basics as far as body position and working to use other parts of my body more on the bike. So he was able to help me with some stuff. I was able to help him with some stuff. You know, we dropped his lap times by a significant amount, even just at a track day, which I was really happy about for him. So yeah, we've been able to go back and forth with each other. Just, you know, he's been helping me in some aspects and I've been helping him. So it's kind of been a beneficial relationship for both parties. That's, you know, no doubt about it.
Hey, Paul, don't you wish that we were on Ben's and CJ's team? I mean, they seem like they all get along so well. It'd be cool, huh?
Yeah, you're just like our little team here.
Yeah, that's true. I don't want to take anything away from our own team. We have a good team as well. But
yeah, it seems like you guys got a good thing going. Yeah,
we do.
I think it's good.
I also want to maybe correct Sean a little bit with his, you know, early demise of the Supersport class.
Yes,
because, you know, I've heard some pretty strong rumors that there's going to be some rule changes for Supersport, and, you know, we might end up seeing the likes of Triumphs and Ducatis and things like that in the class, which would obviously bolster it for everybody. So,
wow,
you might be a little bit premature there, Mr. Bice.
I hope I am, actually, because like I said, I had to take that back and say I love that class so much. I didn't mean to put so much emphasis on Twins Cup, but no, I hope Supersport sticks around for a long time. And, you know, Benjamin, whether he stays in or goes up to a bigger class, it's a very exciting class, no doubt about it. So that's good news, Paul.
All right. Well, in the meantime, we've got a couple races left, and we're gonna let you go now, Benjamin. But I wish you luck. You've got, you know, the battle for the championship in that class is, barring some sort of catastrophe, is pretty much over, but the battle for third definitely is not, and you're right in the middle of that. So we wish you luck. I know getting third in the championship would feel a lot better than getting sixth, and obviously both of those are possibilities at this point. So we wish you the best, and we'll see you down there next week.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a week time.
Yeah, I want to jump in here just real quick and say, you know, with these 2 rounds back to back, we're going to be really busy, and the fans are going to be busy watching or attending our races. And with Labor Day weekend coming up here, I want to remind the fans that we've got a promotion coming up here that's going to involve a code that you look on our social media for it, and you can put that code in and get, some percentages off on select ticket packages for our races. And I also want to make an appeal for corner workers. We always need those guys. Love to have some more corner workers volunteering at New Jersey and certainly at Barber. They're both great tracks to visit as a fan, and you can't get a better seat than being a corner worker and out helping riders like Benjamin Smith and anybody else that is out there on the tracks. So I just want to make that appeal as well. But thanks, guys.
All right, guys. You guys have a good week.